Hello, I'm Mike, and this morning we're going to do about a 25-minute practice where we'll work on some movement and awareness of the breath while moving, and then maybe some standing postures and balance, and moving down to some stretching and final relaxation. We can start seated, feeling our sit bones rooted down into the ground, sitting like a cross-legged posture or however you prefer. Opening up the chest and the upper body, and a slight tuck with the chin. Let's take a few deep breaths here, grounding down into the ground and feeling that opening, reaching with the top of the head up. When you're ready, we can keep that engagement with the breath. Now we have more awareness in the moment. Let's do some circular motion while seated, noticing any stretching around the abs on the sides, pressing the chest forward as we're forward, and then rounding a little bit as we're circling back. Noticing the hip joints, and then circling in the other direction. Taking another rounded breath here. Being more aware. Let's do some neck type circles. We're focusing more on bringing the chin to the chest and rolling up to one ear on one side. Gently, but not forcing the stretch. Holding here. And then the chin to the chest again, and gently moving the other ear towards the other shoulder. We can do this a couple times more. Noticing the breathing. Then returning to center, taking another rounded breath here. When we're ready, moving to the tabletop posture with hands and knees on the mat. I will move through some cat-cow, inhaling and opening, arching, exhaling and rounding. Opening up in the joints and in the upper body, in the chest. Going through a few rounds of breath. Now let's go back into child's posture. Stretching the arms forward and bringing the forehead to the mat. Taking a few breaths. Looking up between the hands and stepping the feet forward into forward fold, standing. Lengthening the legs, extending. Taking a breath and slowly rolling up to standing. Coming to mountain pose. Noticing the groundedness with the breath down into the ground and the top of the head reaching up to the sky. We'll do a couple of sun salutations, inhaling and raising the arms, exhaling and folding. Inhaling, raising to a flat back halfway, and exhaling, stepping back onto the knees or into plank. Lowering down, exhaling, inhaling, raising to cobra or upward facing dog. And then let's press back into the downward facing dog. Pressing the feet into the mat and the hips towards the sky. Taking a few breaths here. Bringing the knees to the mat and returning to child's pose. Looking up between the hands, stepping forward into the forward fold. Raising with a flat back and exhaling, folding. Inhaling, coming to the standing posture, taking a grounding breath. Another sun salutation. Inhaling, raising the arms and exhaling, folding. Inhaling, raising with a flat back. And exhaling, stepping back with the other leg. Lowering onto the knees or in plank. Down to the ground, exhaling. Rising up to cobra or upward facing dog. And then pressing back onto hands and knees and moving into downward facing dog. Taking a few breaths here. Lowering the knees down and moving into the child's pose for a few breaths. Inhaling, looking up to the hands and stepping forward into a forward fold. Then slowly raising up to standing. Taking a breath here. We'll step back with one leg into Warrior One. The back foot is around 45 degrees and the front toes are pointing forward generally. We can kind of focus our hips on moving this way, but really focusing also on the edge of the back, the outside edge of the back foot, pressing more into the mat. Just for today. And noticing how that changes the musculature and the connections all the way down into the foot. Taking a few breaths here. Raising the arms overhead if you'd like. I'm trying to keep kind of a flatter lower back, so I'm not quite as flexible yet. And stepping to the front of the mat, taking another grounding breath. Stepping back with the other leg into Warrior One. Noticing the back edge, the outside edge of the back foot pressing more into the mat. Kind of a groundedness there, but the entire foot's on the mat. The front knee over the front ankle. And noticing here, the bottom of the foot, all those tendons, fascia, musculature, and how it's affected as we're moving the hips towards facing the front. Feeling that back foot grounded into the mat. Just noticing that sensation. For me, I feel more tightness, almost like it's relieving some kind of tension. Bringing awareness with each side being different. Bringing the arms overhead, if you'd like. Try to tuck in my core a little bit, tuck in the pelvis, and raise the arms towards the ears. Otherwise, I end up really arching, which is nothing wrong with arching, but I'm just trying to work something different. Stepping forward to the front of the mat. And we'll work on a couple balance postures here, just tree pose, Vrikshasana. I believe it's pronounced in Sanskrit. Placing one sole of one foot on the other leg or on the ground like this. And we'll take a few breaths while balancing. This mat is kind of thicker and it's on carpet as well. So it definitely gives a good feel for the sole of the foot, finding stability where you are. Then coming to balance on the other side. Then let's move towards the mat. So from a standing posture, we can come to a seated posture, how we'd like, and rolling on to the mat. Maybe doing a few rolls on the back, massaging the back. Then coming to the seated posture, we'll do one more strength pose. A reverse type plank, reverse tabletop as it's called sometimes. Actually, this is more reverse plank. And keeping the legs straight, the hands placed slightly behind the hips on each side, and opening the chest, pressing the hips towards the sky. Taking a few breaths here. then releasing, let's raise the arms overhead and forward, fold forward. Taking a breath and exhaling forward. We'll do some stretching type postures. Coming onto the back now. Rolling back, I will start with the figure 4 type stretch. Being mindful of our breathing, our alignment. Bringing one ankle over the other knee. Taking care to protect this knee, but only opening from the hip. And then clasping around the other knee. Gently experiencing the sensation in the upper hip, the one that's being stretched a little more. Not so much in the knee, but more in the hip. All the musculature around the hip. A couple more breaths here. And then releasing when you're ready. Let's move to the other side. Bringing the opposite ankle over the other knee. Gently feeling that sensation along the musculature on that hip. But taking care not to put a lot of pressure on that knee. And now releasing our feet to the mat. This side was a little tighter for me. You might notice one side is different. Let's do a bridge posture. Bringing the fingertips near the heels and shoulders down away from the ears. Pressing the hips forward for a few breaths. Folding down. Let's move towards our resting pose. As an option, we can lay on the ground like this, our arms and legs apart, actually releasing the breath, sinking down into the ground. Now we'll stay silent for a few moments. And you can remain laying down or come to a seated posture for like a meditation type practice. We'll remain here a few more minutes, noticing the breath. bringing more awareness back into the moment, opening the eyes if you'd like. Thank you for taking the time for the practice. Namaste.